Turns out Micah Parsons' back issue might be more serious than folks thought. Should the Green Bay Packers have remorse? I don't think so. More on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert Spencer German. On today's show, we are going to predict who is going to make the playoffs in the NFL this year. We're going to start with the NFC division winners, where I don't think Micah Parsons' back injury is going to keep me from picking the Packers. We're going to talk about the AFC division winners, where I think the Denver Broncos knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll tell you who we think makes the wild card, where I think the Bears finally break through. Before we get into all of it, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Spencer, obviously, we got to start with the big news of the day. Micah Parsons' back injury seems to be a little bit more serious than maybe some people thought. And I admit, the trade goes through and you're like, okay, the back issue is going to all of a sudden be fine. We've seen this before in contract negotiations and things like that, where these ailments just simply go away once the money gets paid and things get ironed out. But Parsons doesn't seem to be in that list, and they're saying he's probably going to have to take a pain injection, is a joint sprain in his spine, and it sounds a little more serious than maybe I admit I initially thought. I don't know that I'm overly concerned about this for the Packers, but it definitely does make you kind of raise your eyebrow, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it definitely gives some credence to the idea of why the Cowboys were maybe a little hesitant to give him the big money, on top of just how that was all kind of playing out in the meantime as well, some of the distractions that he sort of provided. But yeah, I don't know that I have tons of buyer's remorse here from the Packers. You still added a generational talent to your roster that makes you as everyone talked about the last few days, a bona fide Super Bowl contender, right? Like, they're in that conversation now. They were sort of in that, on the fringe of that, and now they're directly in it because of him being added to the roster. I guess it depends on what this thing looks like as the season plays out, like later on in his career, like maybe later on in this deal. I don't know that I've seen anything yet from the national reporting that's out there. And obviously neither of us are doctors, so we don't know
right.
How serious of an injury. I know like back and spine stuff can be very alarming when it has to do with like the discs in your spine. Like, that's always concerning. But is this something that like he can have surgery for at some point and be fine? Is it something where he just needs to kind of like have a pain tolerance thing? I guess it's something we have to kind of watch and monitor. But do I think that this means that the Packers lost the trade or anything like that? No. I still am resigned to the idea that the like one team's getting a generational talent that you don't really want to ever give away, and the other team is going to try to replace that generational talent. Easier said than done with 2 first-round picks. So we'll see what it looks like, but I'm not overly concerned about the back issue at this point, unless it becomes something more, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's something that does bear watching, but at the end of the day, it might be more of a long-term issue than a short-term. And for our purposes, obviously I think that doesn't affect how I feel about the Green Bay Packers. But outside of the back issue, there are some that are talking about run defense as a concern for Micah Parsons. My guy Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers isn't buying that one either.
There's a lot of cope going on right now in the media, from NFC North fans, from other NFC contender fan bases about Micah Parsons and his run defense. And let me state unequivocally, in the words of Mike Tomlin, we do not care. You do not acquire arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL, the most disruptive 26-year-old pass rusher in the NFL by far, clearly, and whinge about run defense. Is Micah Parsons a great run defender? No, he's not. That's not the point. It's like saying Deion Sanders was not a great tackler. Okay. He was also easily the best corner in the NFL and is an all-time great. And Micah Parsons is an all-time great. If you want to argue Myles Garrett is a little bit better at these couple things, fine. Okay. That's it. Myles Garrett is the only guy in Micah Parsons conversations. Okay. And I don't think there's another defensive player at any position currently in Micah Parsons conversations. Not Dexter Lawrence, not Pat Surtain. It's Myles Garrett, it's Micah Parsons. They're the best two defensive players in the sport.
Impossible to argue with, in my opinion. I'm totally on board with Pete there, and that is why we talk about division winners in the NFC. The Green Bay Packers are my winner in the NFC North over the Lions. Spencer, who did you pick in the NFC North?
I'm taking the Packers as well. This move was enough for me to sort of put them into the scales in their favor. I still think the world of the Lions. They're really going to be really, really good, I would think, again. My biggest question with them is two new coordinators, right? It's hard enough to replace one of those guys. Can they replace both? I think it's something that we have to see. I think you're going to learn a lot about Dan Campbell in that regard, in terms of his ability to coach and just continue to add coaches around him that help lift up his team and make them better and perform. So we'll see. But I am taking the Packers. I think Parsons is a big reason for that. And I think what Peter said, honestly, was spot on. I think with every star player, there's some things you can point to and say, well, they don't do this thing particularly well. Or like with Myles, for example, here in Cleveland, it's some of the off the field stuff. He gets a lot of speeding tickets. Yep. He isn't maybe the best leader on the team, but guess what? You will take him every single Sunday out on the field making plays for you. And so I think that you take those trade-offs when you have a player of that magnitude because you know what they're going to bring to the table. You know they can single-handedly win you games. And I think he's going to have that type of impact on the Packers season where they walk out victorious in the NFC North.
And they already have a really good roster. So it's not like the Packers were bad or middling or whatever. Like, they've been a very good roster for a few years. And now you add a player of that caliber, I'm with you there. Now, the thing is, with the divisions, I think that outside of the Packers in the NFC North, most everything else, unless you really want to get spicy, it seems pretty locked. Like, I'm going with the Eagles in the NFC East. I'm going with the Rams in the NFC West. I'm going with the Buccaneers in the NFC South. The only thing spicy I have to say about any of that is I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get the number one seed, go like 13-4. That's really my only spicy take, but I don't think saying Eagles, Rams, Bucks is really that much of a hot take. You know what I mean?
No, I think those three teams all make sense. I do think the NFC North is the team that, or the division rather, that is maybe the spiciest because you had three of those teams make the playoffs last year. And so the question kind of becomes, does that happen again? Do they all three get back there? Or, is it the Lions taking the top spot or somebody else sort of challenging and actually winning it this year? And that's why, like we both did, we're both taking the Packers in that situation. But yeah, I think the other division winners kind of make the most sense. Eagles are the best team in the East still. Before we sort of started recording here, I was kind of going through thinking about the West, and I was like, who's even good in the West? And then it was like, the Rams are good in the West. So I took the Rams as well. And then I do think the Bucs are the best team in the South. And the weird thing with that division, though, I don't know if I have this. I don't know if I have the cojones to put the Bucs as the winner, just because that division always ends up being tighter than we always expected. It's always a bunch of teams that are like meddling around 500, and then somebody pulls away late. So I do think the Bucs end up beating that team again this year, but I don't know if I think they end up walking out as the one seed, even though I think they're going to be a really, really good team again this year.
Well, Spencer, look, it's all about synergy. And as a guy who on yesterday's show picked Baker Mayfield to win MVP, I think the Bucs get the number one seed in the NFC, and that kind of spurs that movement on. But I'm with you there. The NFC South is wonky, and strangely enough, if you had to make me choose a team out of the three that we said were kind of clear that wouldn't win, the Bucs and the Falcons might be, the most interesting battle you could have there. The Commanders, obviously, in the East could maybe push the Eagles, but those teams will have to fight for wild card spots, according to us, because the NFC, we have the Packers, the Eagles, the Bucs, and the Rams. I can promise you this, folks, me and Spence aren't going to agree on all of them in the AFC, because I got the Broncos taking out the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Look, folks, the NFL season is here, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is back as well. Everyone's researching, drafting, building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league, Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the perfect time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football. There are so many different ways to compete. You want to try something brand new? The Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues have a way where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one left standing. So much fun. You want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? You can get a crew together and play head-to-head private leagues. No crew, no problem. You could just join a public league. It's the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off on September the 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Spencer, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We're talking about what teams will make the playoffs. We did our NFC division winners. We're going to hit our AFC division winners now and then talk the wild card at the end of the show. Packers, Bucks, Rams, Eagles, all agreement in the NFC on division winners for me and Spencer. The Ohio boys connection going strong there, but it will not last here, folks, as we get into the AFC. Let's just start out of the gate, Spencer. My big swing here. I think the Denver Broncos win the AFC West. I wanted to roll with the Chargers early, but so much calamity has happened with the Rashawn Slater injury and some of the issues with wide receiver. They lose Mike Williams to retirement, which may be a good thing ultimately down the line, but Trey Harris is a young receiver that may need a little bit more time. Lambert has really stepped up. I just think some of the concerns that have popped up since I kind of started wanting to roll with the Chargers have switched me over to the Denver Broncos. And if you go to our squad show, the AFC West division preview, it sounds like those guys are ready for a change as well.
Patrick did a lot last year with, I would say, not a lot of great talent around him. Travis Kelce, not the impact player that he was, but still was valuable to what Patrick and that offense wanted to do. To me, I just think right now, the time is now. And I know for the last handful of years, we've been sitting here doing these shows and saying, this is the year. I feel like it could be coming. I strongly do. Being around the Broncos this year, there's just this new sense of energy, and so much is going to be contingent upon health. We'll obviously talk about the key additions that these teams have made, whether it be in free agency, the NFL draft, culture changes. All of this stuff is going to matter. And right now, as everybody is healthy going into the season, for the most part, it makes for an interesting conversation. So
the Broncos are going to win. That's what I have to say. It's just time. There's going to be a Super Bowl hangover here from the Chiefs. There always is for a team that loses. I think it'll be multiplied because they've gone multiple long postseason runs before that. It's not just one Super Bowl hangover. It's multiple postseason runs that can come crashing down. Some of the concerns with the wide receiver group and health there. Some of the concerns with the offensive line. Josh Simmons sounds good right now, but that's a rookie left tackle. I think that the team that Kansas City is going to be good enough to make it, which we'll talk about, but I just think they won't be as hungry and all those other factors, and one of these other teams will find a way to win the division, and I think the Broncos with Sean Payton, Bo Nix, the synergy there, year two, really great coach. They have great talent on defense. I just think the Broncos are set up for a huge season. I think they're set up for a huge week one win as well, and it just kind of catapult them into a good year where Kansas City also plays a lot of primetime and standalone games, has a difficult schedule. I just think there's a lot of factors going against Kansas City that will lead to another team finding a way to pull it off, and I'm just going to roll with the Broncos as the team that does it.
You're forgetting two things, Tyler, and the first thing is the Kansas City Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. And a lot of the things that you said are the same things that were said about Tom Brady at a point in time. Everyone wanted to write him off after they got blown out on Monday Night Football week one. I think it was actually against the Chiefs that they got blown out, whatever year that was. I can't remember off the top of my head. And everyone was ready to say, this is it. This is the end for Tom Brady. Everybody wanted to be first to the take. And I respect what you're doing. I respect what you're trying to do and making sure the Broncos get their love. And the Broncos are a great team. Their defense is phenomenal. They might have the best defense in football this year. Year two with Bo Nix, Sean Payton. Like I do see where you're going with this, and I think there's some truth to the idea that they're going to be better. But I am not going to pick against Patrick Mahomes first and foremost. And I think the second thing you're forgetting, by the way, is that the Chiefs have this weird, almost like Illuminati connection with the universe because of the Taylor Swift thing. And that's right. Taylor Swift, everyone's predicting that Taylor Swift's going to perform in the Super Bowl this year. Yeah. And there's all those signs from her being on Travis Kelce's podcast and all that. And Travis Kelce's coming back for maybe his last year. Like, is he not going to go out with a run of the Super Bowl? So I'm just saying, I know that we've gotten completely off the rails from talking X's and O's ball here, but there's something about the Chiefs. They have some voodoo magic where they just cannot lose. They will at least get back to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. So I'm not betting against the Chiefs at this point. I think I have to leave them as my winner out west, but I do think that those other teams are coming. I think they're not too far behind at this point. And if the Chiefs do go into the season just resting on their laurels, then yes, they absolutely can be caught by a team like the Broncos and maybe even the Chargers, to your point.
You know what? I might be making a mistake in undervaluing the Kansas City Chiefs voodoo magic. To me, I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's regression. Like, they can't win all these one-score games, and they won so many magical ways last year that were just illogical that can't happen again. But that probably is my mistake. Yes, it can happen again, and it will. You know what I mean? But for the time being, I will say Broncos win the AFC West. You go with the Chiefs. I like that. There are some other interesting ones. You go to the AFC North. I guess I'm going to go with the Ravens again, but could you see the Bengals or the Steelers taking that, or are you going with the Ravens too?
Yeah, so what's funny is I think I talked about this with you before. There hasn't been a three consecutive winners of this division since like the 70s when the Steelers were at like the peak of their powers back in the day. And so I find that interesting because I'm like, well, hey, if there's a team that's going to catch the Ravens, I do think it's Pittsburgh, and it all kind of hinges on what is Aaron Rodgers going to look like this season. But my problem is I just don't trust that Aaron Rodgers is going to look like that guy, and so I can't take anybody but the Ravens here. Sadly, and this is going to make for bad, I guess, content, but I think most of my division winners, I think all my division winners are pretty much chalk from last year. I hate to be that guy, but I think the Ravens still win this division. I just think the Bengals defense isn't good enough. They lost some shootouts last year, 2 shootouts actually to the Ravens because their defense couldn't stop anybody. I think that the Steelers, like I said, a lot hinges on Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's going to be good enough the same way that Russell Wilson was to at least keep them in the playoff picture, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to top of the Ravens. And then obviously I think the Browns, even as the team I cover, I know them pretty intimately, and I don't think this is a season we should be thinking about playoffs for them. I think 6 wins for them is kind of like the sweet spot. And I think people would be okay with that, understand where they're at. But yeah, I don't see anybody dethroning the Ravens at this point. So I have the Ravens and the Chiefs back, and we'll get through these other two. But I'm pretty sure I'm locked in on keeping things chalk from last year, unfortunately.
No, well, I'm with you. Obviously, we're both going to go with the Bills too. That one is the division I feel the best about. I don't trust the Patriots or Dolphins. Can I ask you,
in that division, if there's a team that's going to catch the Bills, who do you think is the closest to catching the Bills?
I'm going to say the Jets. Justin Fields just hits his peak.
That's interesting.
You know, he turns in a crazy season. The Jets have talent on defense. I cannot buy into the Dolphins. For me, it would be the Patriots. Maybe if Drake May goes crazy, Stephon Diggs comes back healthy, Mike Vrabel has those guys, chewing bark out in the parking lot, just ready to go. He's fighting in the piles and stuff. Then it would be the Patriots or the Jets. Now, after kind of thinking through it, I think it'd probably be the Patriots.
I was going to say I would probably lean Patriots because of the Mike Vrabel effect. If Drake May takes a big leap in year 2, I think the defense gets back to being better than it was. And I think actually their defense was pretty good last year. So like their defense stays dominant. The offense kind of catches up a little bit. They got some more weapons there. I'm not high in the Jets, and I just think the Dolphins are like a mess right now. The Dolphins,
correct.
I get it. They still have some talent there, but it seems like Tua's not on the same page with Tyreek Hill. Does Tyreek Hill even want to be there? They seem like they're trending towards taking like a massive just step back. So I'd stay away from the Dolphins for sure. I think if there's a team that's going to be close, it would be New England, but I don't even know that they can pull it off yet.
Right. I think they're probably a year away, which is why I kind of hesitant on that. But
Yeah.
we'll go with the Bills. I'm with you. Ravens. We obviously split on the AFC West. I know you were talking about, the Browns and covering the Browns. Well, speaking of that, as we go to the AFC South, Spencer, I know you have the Texans with some chalk, but I do not in the AFC South. I am going with, just kidding, folks. There's no way I was going to pick the Tennessee Titans, but I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are one of my division-winning changes. I think there will be a couple changes this year, and I think that the Texans are a team that is primed for a letdown. The worst thing that they had to deal with, the offensive line, they allowed it to get even worse by trading away an all-world player in Laramie Tunsil. They added a bunch of new faces on the offensive line. They're rotating guys in and out throughout the preseason process. I just don't think this Texans offensive line is going to be good enough to let C.J. Stroud have the time he needs. I wouldn't say he's non-mobile, you know what I mean? It's not like old school Peyton Manning that can't move around, but Stroud doesn't have the mobility of a lot of I wouldn't even say he's top half of the NFL in mobility. So, I think the Texans took their biggest weakness and made it even weaker, and that is going to affect one of their biggest strengths. And I know their defense is really, really good, but on the flip side, not just the Texans, I also think that Jacksonville is going to be much improved. I think Jacksonville's talent level on their roster, this isn't Madden, but every team has their overall rating on Madden. I think Jacksonville's overall rating was much higher in terms of their talent level than where they finished last year, getting a top 5 pick in the draft. That doesn't make sense. To me, Jacksonville was like a Cardinals level talent, like a 7-win, 8-win level talent team, just with bad coaching and bad chemistry. And I think that's been corrected to a point. I think Jacksonville wins the AFC South because the division is crummy again and they improve. At 9-8, Jacksonville wins 9-8, 10-7, and the Texans just slide back a little to 9-8, 8-9. I don't even have the Texans in the playoffs this year to give you guys a little preview of what's coming in the wild card section, but that's going to be another one of my bold predictions here. I think the Broncos take the West, but I'm going with Jacksonville in the South. Do you think I'm crazy for giving the Jags a chance there?
No, I mean, I thought about the Jags. I may even have them in my wild card. We'll see when we get there. But
maybe
it's a weird division. But for some reason, the South divisions in this sport are just always the biggest crapshoots where you just never know what's going to happen.
Yep.
I'm with you. I don't think the Titans are obviously ready yet, even with Cam Ward. I know everyone's excited about him, but I don't think they're ready. I think the Colts actually. This is one of my bolder predictions for the season. I think the Colts might end up being maybe the worst team in football. I just don't know that I see the talent there.
Right.
And people are saying they might be around 500 or average. And I'm I just don't see it. I don't know.
I don't see it. Yep.
And I think the Jags, what's interesting with the Jags for me is when they made the trade up to get Travis Hunter, I kind of asked, are they a Travis Hunter away? And I don't feel like that's the case. I still feel like they're missing some things.
I kind of feel like they might be, though. That's where I differ.
Yeah.
And I did on draft night, too, because I kind of think they are better than it seems. I kind of think they might be.
And that's where I kind of lean on what Liam Cohen was able to do with Baker Mayfield and what he's done with what he did with the Bucs offense. If they can get Trevor Lawrence playing at a higher level, I think anything's certainly possible with that team. And so I do like the idea of the Jaguars. I just can't – at this point, I still think that the Texans have the best team. Even though you're right, the offensive line is going to be an issue for them, and I do think it got worse this offseason. So we'll see. But I think for now I'm sticking with the Texans being the winner in that division.
Fair enough. But hey, that opens up a lot of possibilities in the wild card. We got 6 wild card teams to dive into, 3 in the AFC, 3 in the NFC. Can't wait to discuss. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season again is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel, and again, folks, the NFL season's right around the corner, and you guys know FanDuel Fridays are coming where I give you my best bets for the weekend. You want to make sure that you're ready to go for this first FanDuel Friday of the season. So you got to get on FanDuel right now. It always adds a little more energy to your Sundays. Super quick, super easy. In my opinion, just the best way to experience an NFL Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode is also brought to you by Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just for making their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offer varies per user and location. Go to upside.com for full terms and conditions. All right, Spencer, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We're looking at our playoff teams, playoff predictions here. We did our division winners on the AFC and the NFC side. Now we got to get into our wild card teams. A little bit of difference from me and Spencer in some of these situations. Two differences in the AFC, one difference in the NFC, but we should have some similar wild card discussions with that in mind. Before we dive in, I want to thank you again for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure that you check out our Locked On NFL season previews. We played one earlier from the AFC West. You're going to get every division winner. You're going to get breakout stars, Super Bowl contenders from every division. It's an 8-episode series with everything you need to know about the NFL season ahead. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's going to be on this feed that you're already subscribed to as well. So there you go. But going to the NFC first, since we started with the NFC to start the show, we'll quickly ride through our wildcard teams. I had the Eagles, the Packers, the Rams, and the Bucks as my division winners. So I went with the Commanders once again. I do think they'll regress as a team. They won't have as good of a season as they had last year, but they'll still be enough to make the playoffs. I do have the Lions, who I feel the same about the Lions. They're going to take a big step back without their two coordinators this year, but I think they'll still be good enough at 9-8 or 10-7 to make the playoffs. And then my big, bold prediction, I guess, in this realm, I have the Chicago Bears actually breaking through. I think the Bears have enough talent to make the playoffs. I think all they needed was a real coach. And I think Ben Johnson has been tough on them very early on to set the tone. I think the Bears do break through. 3 teams from the NFC North. I got the Bears going about 9-8 and getting that last playoff spot. That means I left out the Falcons, the 49ers, the Cardinals, the Vikings, all who I think have legit shots. The Falcons and the 49ers were really tough on me to leave out. The NFC's tough, but I'm going to go with the Bears and say that they actually do break through and cash in on the hype.
Not a J.J. McCarthy guy, huh?
No, I'm not a believer. I haven't been since before the draft, though, so it's not Minnesota bias.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm just not a fan. Yeah,
I haven't been a big believer either, but I also have some Ohio State bias there, so there's that.
Some may accuse me of that as well, but whatever,
Yeah, I'm surprised you have 3 teams making it from the North again, but one of them is the Bears over the Vikings. That's sort of surprising.
I don't think the Vikings
we have some similarities here. I, too, have the Commanders getting back because I just think in that division especially, it's the Eagles, it's the Commanders. I know a lot of people similar to trying to be the first to the take that the Chiefs are going to be dethroned. I think there's people out there trying to be first to the take of, well, Jaden Daniels is going to have a down year and he's going to regress this year and it's just not going to be the same. I still think Jaden Daniels is going to be good. Even if he takes a little step back, I think he's good enough that he helps carry that team a little bit. I think they're a better team overall. He got some new weapons there. Plus, obviously, Terry McLaurin back in the fold. So I have the Commanders making it. I think the Lions do get back because they're just too talented not to. But I agree with you that they don't win the division this year without their 2 coordinators. I think that is going to have a little bit of a hit on their success this year. And then my third team is one of the ones that you listed as a team that you left out. I think the Falcons sneak in as maybe that 7th seed and, take a step forward this year with Michael Penix Jr. and the setup they have there going on out of that South division, which is always so fluky, I know. But I do think that the Falcons are able to get the nod and steal that last spot and sneak into the playoffs.
So neither of us have the 49ers or the Vikings. So that's interesting.
Yeah, the
sure.
49ers is interesting because I know it's Kyle Shanahan. You trust him generally with your life, but I just similar to the Dolphins. There's just like weird vibes there. A lot of injuries. Like Christian McCaffrey, like he's back healthy now, I think, but it's like, is he going to stay healthy for the season? I just don't trust it. I think they're kind of in like a weird transitional year right now, and so I don't feel comfortable putting them in.
Can't lie to you. A little bit of home cooking real here. I would love to see Kyle Shanahan get fired. I would love to see that happen. Is
that because you want him for the Titans, or is that just because you don't like Kyle Shanahan?
No, it's a little bit of home cooking. I'd like to make that pairing there. But moving over to the AFC, I just want to say this. We can't linger too much on it, but I've said throughout the offseason that if San Francisco doesn't make the playoffs again, it's like Cincinnati. They have too much talent to not make the playoffs. Somebody's going to pay for it. It's going to be John Lynch or it's going to be Kyle Shanahan. And you can't convince me that if they miss the playoffs again, that there isn't a change somewhere. Most 49ers fans say if it has to be one of the two, it would probably be Lynch before it would be Shanahan, but some would argue that Lynch has put together these great rosters and maybe he might deserve to stick around. I'm just saying, put a pin in the 49ers this year. But in the AFC, obviously with not having the Chiefs win the division, I have the Chiefs making the playoffs. They're going to be the number one wild card. I also have the Chargers making it back. I believe in Jim Harbaugh's second year of his program. And I do have the Steelers making the playoffs. I don't think it's good enough to dethrone the Ravens, but I do think the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers will be good enough to get back to the playoffs again. And I think they have a more legitimate shot on the opening round of the playoffs to win a game. I think the Steelers will be better than they were last year, but still not good enough to beat the Ravens. So I have Chiefs, Chargers, and Steelers, which means no Bengals again and no Texans. I think that offensive line will be a big issue.
No Browns, huh? That's surprising.
No, sorry, man.
I have the Steelers as well. I think the Steelers are the second best team in this division behind the Ravens. I'm also leaving the Bengals out because of some of the stuff I laid out earlier. Their defense scares me in terms of trying to actually contend in a very tough division, in a very tough AFC. I just don't know if they're going to be able to beat a lot of teams just relying on Joe Burrow slinging it all the time. They'll win some games that way, but they won't win a ton. And I just think I can't do it. I don't trust it. So I'm leaving them out as well for a second consecutive year. Might mean the end for Zach Taylor there. Like you talked about with the Broncos and your prediction to win the division, I think they're obviously good enough to make it back to the postseason. I'm banking on them being part of that conversation again, and I'm going to have them as a wild card team, maybe even the top wild card team, because I do think they're good enough that they're going to be able to be at the top of that conversation and maybe push the Chiefs to the end, but I just think the Chiefs get the nod at the very end. And then I did toss around the Chargers here getting back, and I'm with you. Like Jim Harbaugh, second year, hard to bet against him. But I'm leaning into the Jaguars conversation a little bit here because I think the Jaguars, as I thought about it more and more, have a team that could take a step forward, especially with Liam Cohen. And again, if Trevor Lawrence sort of bounces back this year, why not? So I think I'm going to have the Jaguars sneaking in as that 7 seed and getting back to the playoffs for the first time in a little while here. And it might come down to their game against the Chargers, and I think it's like November 19th or something like that, where they play the Chargers, and that head-to-head decides who the last wild card team is. So we'll see, but I'm putting the Jaguars in, giving them a little bit of a nod. I know my Cleveland people won't like that because they want a better draft pick, but that's where I'm at with it right now. But I think the Chargers or the Jags are fair for a wild card situation here in the AFC.
And it's funny because they just played each other in the wild card like 2 years ago. Remember the Trevor Lawrence comeback game? So it looks like those teams just can't get away from each other. But that is going to be our wild card, our division winning predictions here. Tomorrow, going to do some more predictions, going to do some bold predictions, just some things that I think are going to go certain ways. The NFL season is here, folks. We got a game preview episode coming. Can't wait to talk Thursday Night Football. We got a game on Friday as well. So much. The NFL is back, so make sure that you stay locked in here with the Locked On NFL podcast. But that's going to do it for us today. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, Spencer German. As I tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.